I heard you were looking for some Dungeons and Dragons content. Look no further. Hey guys, welcome back. We're not back in the basement yet. I'm waiting on a new microphone that I think will help with the audio issues that people were bringing up in the last video. So when that gets in, we'll go back to the basement, get the studio set up, going again. So right now we're outside enjoying some wonderful nature. Last video we were traveling. This video we're talking about how to be a better player in Dungeons and Dragons. Before we get into the video, if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe. I'm DM Denver, hopefully making your tabletop dice rolling make-believe games just a little bit better. And also, for everyone who helped support the last video that we put up on the channel, thank you so much. I thought that 1,000 views was like 6 months away. So to get it so soon into the channel's creation and into making content and stuff like that is insanely motivating. I appreciate all the comments, likes, shares, etc., etc., etc. So just from my little Dungeon Master heart right here, thank you. Appreciate the support. In case you're not familiar, this is a player's handbook for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And in it, we've got all sorts of great stuff. We got step-by-step character, classes, we've got like a third of it dedicated to spells. A lot of good stuff in here. And you'll notice right there in the contents page under the preface section, page 6, how to play. And under page 6 of how to play, we get 3 main points. The DM describes the environment, the players describe what they want to do, and then the DM narrates the results of the adventurer's actions. Now, the PHP goes on to elaborate on this, and I think there's some tips in it somewhere too for role-playing. But my main point is that for all the rules that we're given on the game, we're not given a whole bunch of stuff for how to be good players of the game. Wizards of the Coast a couple months ago released a statistic that was talking about the fact that 20% of the general D&D community is Dungeon Masters and about 80% are players, or like true players kind of deal. 20% is 1 out of every 5, so 1 dude's a Dungeon Master, that's 4 players. This seems like a normal, like, healthy table ratio to me. However, maybe it's because I am a Dungeon Master and I'm just in tune with the sorts of things floating around concerning Dungeon Master behavior and styles of DMing and stuff like that, but it seems like there is a little bit of a misproportional amount of focus given to DMing. I typed in how to be a better Dungeons and Dragons player into YouTube and was given a lot of great advice from a lot of great content creators. I'll link to XP to level 3's video. The point I'm trying to make is that there are resources out there for being a better player that you don't normally get out of the player's handbook, because the player's handbook doesn't feature a bunch of stuff about how to be a better player. And so now I sum up all these points. 20% Dungeon Masters, XP to level 3, bring it all together. What advice am I actually giving you for this video that you can walk away with feeling like you are empowered to play ttrpgs a little bit better? Well, let me tell you. There's a few different ways I can say it. It's all the same point, but there's a couple different ways to look at it. The first way that I'm going to break down is that players, you need to do your job. Yeah, I'm pissed now. DM Denver is mad. He ain't rolling below 18 tonight, baby. No, but really what I'm meaning is own your character, right? It's your part of the world that you have 100% say over. I crunched some numbers, I'm not citing any sources, but the way that I got it all figured out is that Dungeon Masters have about 50% of the say, and then players have about 50% of the say. We're getting to the statistics now, right? Because I feel like a disproportional focus is placed on the Dungeon Master, who's 20% of the player base, but come game night, it's 50-50 split. And so I think a lot of people take away from reading online and stuff like that is that more should be in the Dungeon Master's hands than I think should be in the Dungeon Master's hands. Personally, I'm a big fan of players just telling me what they want their character to do, right? Like, if I say we're in a forest and you lose your weapon, I get so much gratification out of a player saying, I'm gonna pick up a nearby stick and try and stab the orc, instead of asking me, well, Dungeon Master, is there a stick around? And can I grab it? Is there a grabbing check, Dungeon Master? I would like, can I grab, is there grass in the area? Is there any underbrush? Dungeon Master, is there dirt in the world that I could be standing on? Do I perceive it? Perception check 4. I do not perceive it. Don't like, yeah, don't be like that. No, but it's really gratifying when players take that kind of next step. Now, there's a degree of reason here. I'm definitely not encouraging you to say things about your Dungeon Master's world or say things about the game setting that aren't true. But for me as a Dungeon Master, when I say forest, I'm implying that you're in a forest. And if for some like mid-game character interaction you need a stick, I love when players stand on their own confidence of what they're envisioning in their minds and what I've given them to envision in their minds, that they take the next step and say something about the world. I didn't know that there was a stick there. I mean, like, I did, but I didn't outright say it. And so when they pull from my general description something specific, and it's something concrete, and it's something that is feasible, and they use that, and it's all on them as the engine to make it so, I love that. I'm a big fan of that. I don't see a lot of players who do it. And in some of the best moments that I see in streams and in my own games are when players do it. So players, do it. Don't just listen to what your Dungeon Master says about the environment or the setting or the context. Take it in and then take the next step with it. We are passing you the ball. It's on you to catch it. That's great. But then start running with it, because we want to see you run with it. And then when you trip and fall and fumble, we pick it up. And it's our time to run with it. It's like you don't want to play catch by yourself. When we throw the ball, we're not looking for a wall for it to bounce off of. We're looking for someone else to catch it, change something about it, and throw it back at us. That's the best D&D in my opinion. Another way to say it is to role play with the punches, right? Talking about owning your character, that means the highs and lows too. When your character fails at something, so often do I see it subscribe to just a grunt from the player out of game, upset that they didn't roll high enough, and then the interaction of the scene just kind of moves on to the next thing. No, buddy. You rolled a natural 1. Why couldn't your rogue character pick this specific lock? What happened? Tell me as the DM how your character failed at this. It's your opportunity to show us something about them. Like, we outside the game know that you rolled a natural 1, you just didn't roll high enough, but that means something in the game. Did your lock picks break? I don't know, we're in the middle of a dungeon. You're not going to be able to pick any more locks for the rest of this game. These are things that the Dungeon Master can answer for your character. Don't get me wrong, and I see a lot of tables who rely on that behavior, but I think the game is so much more engaging and players get so much more invested in it when they have the opportunity to answer those questions. Another way to say this point is to find roleplay, right? We go through combat, we go through exploration. I saw the comments on the last video. The third pillar is not travel, it's actually exploration. Who would have thunk? And he wants to be a YouTuber. And social encounters. Those are our 3 pillars. Roleplay does not end at the social encounters. You tell me, you tell the table, and you tell yourself all sorts of stuff about your character when you look for opportunities to show through the other pillars. Another way to say this sentiment is to lean in to the things that happen and use them to tell the story. I'm going to give you 2 situations here, and you tell me which one seems like better D&D. As your group is venturing forward through the foggy swamp, your feet sink into the muck and into the mire. On your 3rd day of travel, a swarm of insects passes through your general vicinity, and later in that evening you find yourselves feeling ailed and tired. I need everyone to make Constitution saving throws. And then everyone rolls, and everyone succeeds except one dude. And that one guy goes, DM, I got a 3. As your group makes camp for the evening, your cleric character begins scratching at some of the insect bites and notices a green pus begin to foam from them. You're going to suffer a point of exhaustion. And then there's two responses here. I want you to guess which one makes better Dungeons and Dragons. This is the first response from the player and the party as a whole. The player goes, oh, huh. Well, I mostly cast healing spells anyway, so whatever. And then the party might be like, oh, cleric character, you look scratchy. And then the cleric, mostly the cleric player goes, it's really fine. It's not that bad. Okay, and so that's one response, right? And that's how I see it go a lot, because admittedly the mechanical kind of penalty that the exhaustion places isn't crazy, but there's a second response which I think is better. That's this one. Dungeon Master goes, oh, the pus, the insect bites, yada yada yada. And then the cleric character just sits down and like just starts like he goes, Thordil starts to scratch his forearm and says, wait. He holds it up to the firelight to show the group that he's unwell. Thordil would say, I think we should turn back. I'm ailing. And then the party can be like, Thordil, we can't turn back. We have to stop the necromancer. And then Thordil could be like, I don't know why I named him Thordil. It's kind of a fire name though. And then Thordil goes, for 3 days we've been looking for a dead end, a ghost. The necromancer's dead. I'm itching, scratching, and my boots are filled with mud. This sucks. Let's go back to town. And then the party can have an argument. What do they do? You know? Like, what is the way forward? Do they go back to town? I mean, that's a feasible option, right? We get so caught up in a complete quest. This penalty's not too bad. Like, we get so enamored by if we can. We don't ask, would the characters? I think that's the most important thing. Is just keeping characterization in mind despite any sort of mechanics, right? Because players, whenever you don't buy into the penalties like that, like Thordil's exhaustion, what are you telling the DM? You want the penalties to be harder so that you actually consider it? I mean, if that's the kind of game you're looking for, but I definitely think there's a lot that can be gained in terms of the experience of our games when we buy in like that. How much more fun is it for all the characters to voice their perspectives as to what they should do as a collective, all because of Thordil's exhaustion, which is a fair penalty, versus him going, I mostly cast healing spells. This isn't really an issue. And then I'm gonna let you players in. Players, I'm giving you a little. There's a plane. I'm gonna give you guys a secret for Dungeon Masters. If you want to become your Dungeon Master's favorite player, do that kind of stuff. Because not only does it give an opportunity for the party to sort of interact, voice perspectives, that kind of thing, but it shows the Dungeon Master that you're buying into his world. I've grown past kind of looking for that from my players, just because I know that new players or people have different play styles. There's a lot of reasons that people respond to the game in the ways that they do. But if you want to be your Dungeon Master's favorite player, if he or she says insect swarm and you get covered with insect bites, and then the party makes camp and you take the time to narrate that you're scratching all over yourself and that you don't want to be in this disgusting, not fun swamp anymore, your Dungeon Master is going to love that. Even if there's not any crazy mechanics that befall your character one way or the other, and even if the swamp isn't actually by design very hard for your characters to navigate through, you know, it could be like a reduced travel time or something else, but whatever the penalties are, if you treat them like they are real penalties that your character is considering, your Dungeon Master is going to love that. And if your whole party does it, that is such a great way to respect the Dungeon Master's time. This 20% of the gaming population is taking time out of their week to set up this world, and you're making a character that doesn't interact with it in a super reasonable way. Buy into the world. Buy into your character. In taking the time to own your character, you give yourself a bridge to start experiencing the world that the DM has made in a much more authentic way, and it makes the game more engaging. But it starts with you. People look towards the Dungeon Master to do it for them. The Dungeon Master can, but it's so much more fulfilling, I think, when the players start that process on their own end, for everyone involved. It just continues to lift the game up in a way that you're not going to find outlined in a book anywhere. So hopefully this video has been helpful to kind of showcase that point. So that's the video, that's the advice. I really do hope that people who are players in the game predominantly can want us to take something valuable away from it. I'm looking for all sorts of good discussion in the comments down below, perspective, that sort of stuff. I always love to read in on the conversations and participate when I can. So definitely feel free to drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe, yada yada yada. Now we're moving on to the response question section portion of this video. Last video, I asked a question at the end of the video, which was, what was the coolest thing that you had made or encountered in travel? Got a ton of great responses, got a ton of great feedback on that video too, and I'm gonna respond to one of the responses. So, throw it up on the screen here. Chorus, K-O-O-R-S-S, says that the most interesting thing that they've made as a DM during travel, which wasn't a lot, so it's not gonna be super special, was an encounter with 2 kobolds on the road, one over the other in a trench coat. Incredible, outstanding. This is top tier Dungeons and Dragons. I love that. I often feel like in my games I like venture away from that sort of like campier or like funnier, like more like upbeat kind of encounter. So I love when other people, like the tone in their game really like lends to that. I'm a little jealous. I want to try and do more of that. So 2 kobolds in a trench coat, classic, iconic, incredible. He says that they were attacked by raiders and wanted to help claim the camp back. The quest in question didn't have anything to do with it, and my players chose to help but not investigate any further. If they would, it would have led to a side path of a totally different adventure. Chorus says, to me, this is the most interesting part about travel. Sometimes you see smoke over the trees and say, wow, look at that, what's happening? And now you can explore and find something completely different. Yeah, so of course, it's actually funny you say that because this is a point that I didn't outright say in the travel video, but I think in some ways it could be inferred, so I'll take the time to outright say it now because of your comment. DMs, travel is a great opportunity for possibility. Some of the best things that have happened in my game are when I set up things that they'll encounter on travel and don't totally flesh out all the context behind it. They start playing and encountering and working through and making those sort of next steps arrangements for the travel encounter that I had set out, and then it gives me an opportunity as a DM to go, well wait, now this needs an answer, and this needs an answer, and that needs an answer, and then all of a sudden you fleshed out this area of your world or this aspect of your game that you hadn't previously. So even in Chorus's example, 2 kobolds in a trench coat offered this avenue, or could have offered this avenue for them as Dungeon Master, for the players to go on something entirely different. It was just this great fork in the road and this meaningful choice early on that was just sparked about by this run. That's great. It's a random happenstance. It's awesome. Yeah, good stuff. And now with that, I still don't know how to really end a YouTube video. We know it's about that time. It's your favorite part. Coming in, gonna do a little stealth check here for you. Let's see what we do. Woo! 6.